Good afternoon and welcome to the Fusion Teams webinar, Collaborate in the Cloud. Today we'll be going through basically what Fusion Teams is and how to get started with Fusion Teams. This session will be recorded. All the participants are muted, but you are more than welcome to ask questions in the chat panel that is enabled for you to ask your questions, and I will answer them either as they come up or during the Q&A session at the end. My name is Carl van Rooyen. I'll be presenting today. I'm an application engineer with Micrographics, and my email address is carl@mgfx.co.za. So to get started, let's have a look at the agenda. We'll start with an intro into what Fusion Teams is and Team Hubs. And then we are going to, after the intro, look at Team Hub setup, how to basically set up your Team Hub, how to share and track data inside of your Team Hub, and then what cloud assets or libraries are available within the Team Hubs before closing with a summary and Q&A session. So our introduction today will focus on why you would want to use a Fusion Team Hub and the benefits of using one. After the introduction, we will then delve deeper into the agenda topics and have a specific look at each of those. But before we ask the question, why use a Fusion Team Hub, we firstly need to understand what it is. A Fusion Team Hub is a cloud-based storage and collaboration platform used as a centralized location for designers and non-designers to, well, store data and collaborate. The storage is owned by the company, and the data here is not stored on the user's personal cloud account. Anyone who is given permission can access projects and data within the Fusion Team Hub. Now, you may start to wonder what software you need to access the data and tools. Well, being cloud-based, it means that there's no need for software. You can access and collaborate online using your favorite web browser. The only time software is needed is when a designer needs to edit a CAD file. This makes Fusion Team Hub a really simple way to collaborate with external stakeholders, such as suppliers, clients, subcontractors, and the like, as there is no need for them to install software. But I mentioned that it was cloud-based. This means that these collaborators can connect from anywhere, from an internet-connected computer, phone, or tablet. Fusion Team Hubs is also CAD aware. What does this mean? It means that you are able to view and interact with 2D and 3D CAD files directly in your web browser. Part of this interaction includes the ability to create markups and comments on the CAD file while viewing it online. Allowing collaborators to communicate on the same platform streamlines the process of transferring CAD data and eliminates the need to export neutral file types. Relationships such as where used and users, also known as parent-child relationships, are viewable within the Team Hub by simply viewing the file's information page. This is useful for design tracking and predicting the knock-on effects of changing a part. Being cloud-based gives designers the ability to access and edit their design files from anywhere through Fusion 360. It also allows for further integration with packages like Inventor and Vault Pro through the use of the desktop connector, allowing files from a local server or computer to be transferred to and from Fusion Team Hub cloud storage. Now you may be asking, why use a Fusion Team Hub? To help answer the question, I've listed a few advantages and I'll explain how these can be leveraged. Firstly, your CAD files are all stored and managed in the cloud, making accessing and sharing data much easier. This cloud storage can also extend to non-CAD files such as Word documents and PDFs, work instructions, check sheets, etc. This data is all in a company-owned hub that can be managed by administrators who add and remove users and privileges as required, creating a secure location to store and share data. This hub also prevents users from working in an individual silos and storing data on their own hard drives or the incorrect network folder. The access to the files stored in the Fusion Team Hub is not only limited to designers who have Fusion 360 licenses and software. Non-CAD users can access the Fusion Team Hub through a collaborator license. This allows users who may work in stores, production, or management roles to have access to the data and have a window into the design process. The same goes for suppliers or manufacturers who need to access the files for machining and manufacturing purposes. They can be added to the project in the hub or simply have public links shared with them. Collaboration is extended further with the ability for project members to participate in a tracked conversation directly inside the design's view panel, with the ability to add markups where required. And as mentioned before, if you have local storage or Vault Pro as your current solution, it can be integrated to upload files into Fusion Team Hub using the desktop connector. We have a good idea now, hopefully, of what Fusion Team Hub is and what it can do. Now we'll look into how to set up your Fusion Team Hub. The next few slides will deal with creating your Fusion Team Hub and we will break this down into 3 segments. The first segment will be where a new user needs to create a Fusion Team Hub. Then we'll look at a new user who needs to connect to an existing Team Hub. And lastly, a user with an existing personal hub who wants to join an existing Team Hub. The last one comes with the added option of moving projects from the personal hub to the Fusion Team Hub. The following video will sum up the process, and I will then unpack this into more detail.
If you are working in a team, this update is for you. Up until this release, the data environment for Fusion 360 has been an individual environment. We have offered an optional team environment called Fusion Team, available but not easily accessible for all users. While the current personal environment is fine for simple ad hoc collaboration, it doesn't scale for bigger teams who are now adopting Fusion 360. Now, we have made it easier for existing users to switch over to a team account, as well as new users to get a team account right off the bat during account creation. So I'll run through a few scenarios for various team members. First, let's say I'm brand new to Fusion 360. Just like before, I will enter my information to make a Fusion 360 account. Now, Fusion 360 will greet me kindly and ask me to name my Fusion team. Make sure to allow people from your domain to join this team. Now, let's create a few projects to show how others in my team can access the correct data. Next, Aaron is just starting at my company and is going to create a Fusion 360 account with the same company domain. This time, instead of asking him to create one by default, Fusion 360 is going to ask him if he wants to join my existing team. Now, once he gets into Fusion 360, he will see the projects that I previously created, but won't be able to access them without my approval. Luckily, I trust Aaron, so I'm going to let him have access to my standard components library. Now here's the third case. Marty has been using Fusion 360 and has some existing projects. For this workflow, start by clicking the link in the description, and it will take you to a landing page explaining what Fusion Team really is. So Marty can select her existing projects and transfer them to my Fusion team. In addition, the existing project members from her projects will transfer over appropriately. It will take a few minutes to transfer depending on the size of your project, but you can check on the status in the top right. Once complete, Marty can see her projects in the new Fusion team, and she can request access to other projects she does not have access to yet. Now that's super simple.
Okay, so that was a short video just showing a quick breakdown of how to create the teams. And so what I'm going to do now is I'll go into that a little bit more in depth and break down the process for each of those. So the first scenario we saw there was if you are a new user and your company is new to Fusion 360 and they don't yet have a team hub. So the following process would apply to you. You're essentially starting from a blank canvas. What you would do is you would either sign in with your account if you have one, or alternatively, you would choose the option to create a new account. If you're creating that new account, you'd select that option, and then you would see this next screen where you would fill in your account information. Quite simple and straightforward information required there. And then once you have clicked the terms and conditions and created the account, you will then be asked to create a team hub. So you'll get the hello with your name, welcome to Fusion 360, and then you would enter in your team name. Now, there is an option at the bottom there that does allow people from the same domain to be able to see the team hub and allow them to join that team hub. So as an example, us at Micrographics, we have a @mgfx.co.za domain for our emails. So if I created a team using my Micrographics account, anybody in Micrographics who has a Micrographics email address would be able to join that team and then view the projects within the team. Once you have entered your team name in, selected the option at the bottom if you wish to have that enabled, and you hit the next option or continue, you should see a green check mark telling you that your team is ready for use, and Fusion will continue to load into its home screen. Your hub would now be successfully created, and you can then continue on with the next steps, which we'll cover in a few slides' time. This next slide would be the process. This process, should I say, would apply if you are an existing user, so you can log into Fusion 360, but your company has an existing team hub that you wish to join. And this may be your first time, new user. This is your first time logging into Fusion. So when you log into Fusion, you will be prompted to join an existing team. So this would be if Fusion found teams that matched your domain for your email, and it would then list those teams that are joinable. So you can either pick a team out of the list to join, or at the bottom, you can create your own team and then allow people from your domain to join that team. You would then click start, and that would either join the team or create a new team. And lastly, this scenario is where you are an existing user who is already part of a team, but you want to request to join another team or even create yet another team from within Fusion 360. So this would typically be done by going to the team dropdown at the top left corner of Fusion 360. You would select the name of the team that is currently active, and in the dropdown, you will see your team or teams that you are a member of. And right at the bottom, you'll get the option there to either create or join a team. Now, once a team hub has been created, it can then be populated with projects. So our team hub is that overall top level folder, and within inside of that, we create our projects. So projects are a way to separate your designs and work within separate folders, if you want to call them that. So you'd have these separate project folders. Typically, your project that you would create right off the bat would be for your standard components, maybe research and development, projects for jobs or products, depending on the type of company you work for. In the video, two projects were created. One was called standard components, and the other one was called intellectual property. It's safe to assume that the designs within these two folders will be reused later in other projects, and that is quite possible. You can have a standard components folder or project where you then put in all of the components that you reuse multiple times in your designs. So you can feel free to create as many projects as you need and name them accordingly. These projects, as we see here in the window, we're able to click new project from inside of the Fusion data panel and create that project. If a project is no longer used, you can feel free to archive that project, and it will archive it out of that panel and keep it in storage. You do not lose that archived file. Now, within each project, you can create subfolders. And this will allow you to further separate your work within that project. So you can see here, I've got a personal hub with a project called My Model. And within that project, I have created various subfolders to break it down into the different models that I have created within Fusion, let's say on a personal capacity. And so you can create a directory or subfolder directory within your project. And a quick tip before moving on, creating a project through the web-based Team Hub will give you the ability to select the project accessibility type as well as an avatar for the project. So if you're viewing Fusion through your web browser and you view your team, you're able to create a project from viewing that team in the web browser. You give it a project name, the project type. There are 3 different project types. I can show these later, but they would change how you access who can see those projects. And once again, then you can choose an avatar for your project. There are some default images, and there is also an option to upload your own image. That way you can customize the look of the project. Now, once you've created the various projects, you would then want to be able to add users and collaborators. So before we move on to adding users and collaborators, I just want to do a quick recap to where we've got to at this point. So at this point, we've looked at how to create a team hub. There are the 3 different ways of doing this. From a clean slate where you create a new user and immediately create a new hub, or where it's an existing user who's using, let's say, Fusion 360 for the first time and logging in and joining an existing team hub, or a long-time user who has been around for a while but they just want to join a new team hub or an existing team hub. So what we'll look at, and then from there, once the team hub's created, we'll then look at creating projects within the team hub. So now we'll look at how do we add more users to the projects within the team hub. So we can add users and collaborators. We'll also look at how we can track file versions and the information related to those file versions, like the date saved and by who, as well as design file relationships. So we will look at the relationships within the CAD data, things like the where used, users, and related drawings. So once the project has been created, you can add users who need access to that project. This is done by accessing the project in the data panel and enabling the People's tab. So we can see there the image of my data panel where I've clicked on the People's tab, and right at the top, you will see a place to enter in an email address for the user with an invite button. This would invite the user as an editor into the project. And once the user is invited to the project, you're able to edit their roles online through the web-based Team Hub. So you would go to the Project Members tab within the specific project. And once you are viewing the Project Members tab, you are then able to change the user's roles. So this allows the administrator the ability to split designers up into teams who are working on separate projects and prevent them from accessing projects that they don't need to access. You can also give someone access to a project and limit their abilities within the project. Editor can save and move files or copy files, whereas someone who's a viewer can only view files. If someone's a project admin, they can view, edit, move. They've got full rights over the files. Then once you have users then added to the project, you are then able to continue designing, or those users are able to continue designing and working. And an important thing during the process of designing and working with the files is being able to track information related to those files. So here I've got some screenshots where we are tracking general information with regards to a specific design. So having a look at the screenshot on the bottom left, HP Z2 Mini, we can actually see in that screenshot that it is currently in use by myself. So I have it open in Fusion at the time of taking the screenshot. It is in actual fact, a Fusion 360 design. So there's some information there regarding the file type, and its share link is on. Basically, that means that it has a link associated to it that allows people to view it online. And then in the bottom of that window, we can see they're last updated on 121 August 17th, 2020 by myself. So that was the last time that file was saved. That screenshot is taken from the online Team Hub view. So basically in your web browser, viewing the file through a web browser. So that is something that a designer could view, or even a manager who does not have access to CAD could open up that and view that information. Then on the right-hand side, that part MCH1012, that is what you would see within Fusion itself in the data panel. So there we see basically the same information with the option to click View Details on Web, and that will allow you then to see the information as you see it in the format on the left-hand side. At the bottom, we have the various versions, version 3, 2, and 1, 3 being the latest for that part, and that is the history showing when it was last modeled, when that version was saved, and by who. Essentially, who saved that version. And then there are also 3 other tabs there: users, used in, and drawings. And in the next slide, we'll see what information we see there. But bear in mind, those 3 tabs are viewable within Fusion 360, as well as in the next slide, we see those tabs, users, used in, drawings, available on the web browser as well, so through your standard web browser. Now, these are what we call design references or design file relationships, generally classed into 3 things for Fusion. You have users. So essentially, if I just go back to the previous slide, we have that HP Z2 Mini, and what we see on this slide here is the information relating back to that HP computer. So we can see that in the users tab, it is referencing to other components within the Team Hub. So these are standard components that were pulled from a library or pulled from another project with standard components within it. So we have a display port, power socket, we have what looks like a USB-C connection, and then your RJ45 with your USB 2, so your network point, your USB points. So that HP Z2 Mini computer uses those components within the design. Then in the image below, we can see it says used in, and that is now basically showing that that HP Z2 computer is being added into a file called render backplate. So it's more than likely been added into there to create renderings of that computer. So that's an assembly that holds that computer inside of it. So we can see where that assembly, where that computer is being used. And then lastly, we have the drawings option. That drawings option shows any drawings related to that computer. So I currently only have 1 drawing related to that computer. I'll go over to the next slide. we are going to move on basically to looking at cloud assets and libraries. I think before I do that, what I'm going to do is go into Fusion 360. So over here, we can view that computer and we'll see the list of linked components. So we'll see there are 4 display ports, there are 2 USB-C ports, the RJ45 and the power socket. And for some reason, there's a second RJ45 in there, which is hiding. So those components are linked and they are pulled in from the connectors folder. So if I go into the connectors folder, those components are listed within there. So in the data panel on the left-hand side, I can go to the actual design file, click on the versions tab, click on the versions button, should I say, and we bring up the data related to this design. We can see its history. In the history itself, you can go to the latest version and open it. Alternatively, you can go to a previous version, open that previous version, or even promote a previous version up to the latest version. We also have the users tabs, allows you to quickly access those components within the design and open up those components for viewing and editing. Also used in, you can then open that parent assembly with the rendering backplate in it. And alternatively, drawings as well. You can view and open the drawings. So that would be the history viewed and file information viewed inside of Fusion. What we can also do is when you expand that, is you can click to view details on the web. And this will take you to your web browser, and you're then able to view those designs online. So here we can see once again in use by Carl van Rooyen, and this is essentially the same as that screenshot in the presentation. And below that, we have the design references and little extra data here, related data. So there were a couple of renderings created of this design, and we can basically open and view those renderings. So we can see product shots or product renders that were created. We can preview earlier versions as well, so we can go back to a previous version and view it or promote it as well from your internet browser. So there we would be able to view it in Fusion or in your web browser. And if I go here to the People's tab, that is where I'd be able to insert a user's email address and invite that user to be part of this project. And as mentioned earlier, if we go view that project in the web browser, there is a project members tab where you are able to manage your project members. Okay, let's get back to the presentation. So part of sharing and tracking the data would also be viewing that information online. And to view that information online, as we saw directly inside of Fusion, you are able to click to view details on the web, and you are able to view them through the Team Hub on the web. Now, part of this would be able to create a shared link or share a link for the design for external people to view, so external collaborators to view. Here you could choose the shared link on option, and that would allow you to copy the link and email that link off to someone. You could use the insert of the built-in email option, send link to, fill in their email address, fill in a personal message for them, and then allow for those viewers to download to their PC. So if I shared a link to somebody who was going to supply me with components, they were going to machine parts, then I would allow them to download to their computer so that they could then work with that file and machine from it. And I could also enable password access on the link. I could also create the link embedded into a web page. So I could copy the specific text here and embed that into a web page. For simplicity, I'm going to take this copy link, open it up in a separate tab in Chrome, and we'll see what the collaborator, what the person receiving that link would see. Just give that a chance to load up. And here we can see that reference images that were used during the design, so we can just hide those references. There's a work plane here as well. Go ahead and hide what is not required. And so this is almost like a fully fledged 3D viewing platform built directly into sort of that cloud software, and we're able to view and isolate components simply by copying that link and emailing it to somebody. Now, another portion of kind of the, should I say, another advantage of having files stored on the cloud is that you can have cloud assets or libraries, as they're called. Now, I'm going to highlight the cloud assets / libraries for the CAM environment, the manufacturing environment. So with the manufacturing environment, there are things like post-processors, tool libraries, templates, machines, and even setup sheet configuration that is very important to keep consistent. If you have 4 or 5 designers that are designers and machine programmers, they would need to share all of that information. So the next couple of slides I'm going to go through are going to look at how this information is stored within the Team Hub. If I actually go back to my online hub here, let's go back to the Home tab, there will be an Assets folder. And inside of that Assets folder, we will see the various CAM machines, posts, print settings, setup sheet configuration, the various assets that are stored online for that project. So we'll have a look at how that is stored and accessed. So the first one we'll look at is the CAM posts and the advantages of having a cloud library for CAM posts is that you have a shared post-processor library that all designers can access. It's available from anywhere. So your designers could be located on site at a customer, they could be away on holiday, they could be overseas. They would be able to still access the relevant post-processors. Even if there are changes that are being made, they would access the latest post-processor with those changes already implemented. And you can store your own post-processors. You don't have to go through a list of 101 different post-processors. You can have your cloud library with your specific post-processors only. So in the right-hand side, the top right-hand image, we can see the post-processor library, viewed within Fusion 360. Select the cloud option, and currently that cloud post-processor library only has a Gerbil Connect post-processor in it. When actually post-processing out the files, you're able to choose to use the cloud post library, and then within the drop down for your post processors, you would be able to choose the relevant post processor. The same goes for your tools. When you have your machine set up, each machine will have their tool libraries, and you would want all the designers to be able to access the latest tool library for each machine. And this can be done by sharing that tool library, creating a cloud tool library, and keeping that cloud tool library maintained and everyone accessing that. So once again, you have a shared tool library. It's available from anywhere because it is cloud-based. It would be your specific tools for those machines. Now, in this case here, I have a MGFX cloud library, but I could create separate cloud libraries for each different machine and what tools are in that machine at the moment. Or alternatively, a overall library for the company as to what tool are available within the company. What are the tools that are stocked? And so it would show your tools that are stocked on hand. And once again, somebody makes a change to a tool, someone updates a tool length after the tool was sharpened, then those changes are based in the cloud. Everyone gets that change updated. The third option we're looking at here would be the CAM templates. Now, CAM templates can also be stored in a cloud location. And the way that, or what this helps is it helps the users speed up their programming of components because they can quite easily pull a template from that cloud library. And designers can create their own templates, upload them to the library, and allow other designers to access those templates because they are part of that cloud library. So you're speeding up your programming by using existing templates. Those templates are shared once again because it's cloud-based and once again available from anywhere. And then just as important as your tools is having your machine set up. So if you're doing machine simulation and you want to set up your machines perfectly with your tools and your simulations, you can create a cloud machine library as well. So once again, quickly access your list of machines that are specific to your company. All users share the same machines, so if settings are updated, it's updated across to all users. And then the last one that I'm going to look at here is the asset libraries and, the setup sheet configurations. And the way I see it here with setup sheet configurations is that you can share your configurations or your setup sheets to standardize on your output of your sheets. If all the users use the same setup sheets for their programs, then no one would be using old setup sheets, and information supplied to the machine shop or the operators is consistent. You're using a company standard. And so on the right-hand side there is a configuration called detail, and all of that information is enabled to output into that detailed setup configuration. And the second image I have here shows what that setup configuration would look like. This is simplified though to only show the first tool and the first operation, but that would list all of the tools and operations. You can actually see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 9. There's 6 tools and 8 operations. So the setup sheet would show all the tools that are used, the information per tool, as well as the operations and all the information for each operation. Okay, so before we get to the summary, I see that I have skipped over a certain portion. I just want to quickly skip back to that. And that would be the comments and markups, looking at comments and markups for a design file. So we spoke about being able to add users and collaborators. Collaborators would typically be somebody, let's say, within upper management or project management who doesn't have CAD to design files, but needs to be able to access and comment and make markups on designs, as well as external collaborators like machine suppliers or part suppliers who will machine components for you. And so what you can do as I was showing earlier, get this up, you're able to send a link to that supplier, and they are then able to view that model in 3D, that external collaborator, and they're able to do things like create section analyses, split this component, view what's inside of it. Now, when I modeled this up, I modeled this as a hollow component, but we can see all of the connectors in the back there. They're able to view properties as well as create explosions of those designs to view the individual components. So some basic viewing functionality here within the link. However, if they are, just go back into that model here. Here, shared link on. I didn't allow for that to be downloaded. If they need to access that file and download it, you would need to make sure that option is switched on. And then on the top right-hand corner of that viewer, you would see the option to either open it in your Fusion 360. So if your collaborators have Fusion 360, they can open the design in their Fusion. Alternatively, they would be able to download that in a file format that suits them. So we'll see that we have various file formats that can be downloaded from this viewer. Alternatively, if they need extra levels of communication, like being able to create markups and comments, they would be added as a user into the project. And from within the actual product view, or the design view, you would be able to select the view window, view that design in pretty much the same viewer, but this gives you the opportunity to have a comment stream. So the collaborator would have a collaborator's license, participant license, should I say, and they would then be able to add a comment. And we see here that I have an existing comment here where there's a little markup. Just go and hide that component. If we click on this little tag, it'll take us to that view, and we see that the connector is highlighted and it says need a better power socket. We can reply to that, let's say as a different user, and we can say, okay, we'll look into it, and post that as a reply. And so you can create a thread of comments and markups on that. So let's say we go here to this HP logo. I'm going to go into the markup environment and do a area select. Sorry, rectangle on that logo. And I'm going to add some text in here. Logo is too shallow. And so that text is added in. And then we can save that markup. And it is added to the stream of comments. And so this can continue back and forth between the various, let's say, between the various designers and stakeholders to be able to comment on various areas and mark up the 3D model itself. And there's no need to export the file, email it off to somebody with an attachment, with text in the email. It's all tracked here inside of the Team Hub. And those changes can be tracked quite easily from inside here. So we have that option for the comment stream. We also have the option here to even share it. And once again, we get that link that comes up. So that would be how you can track and comment. You can also view and manage the comments. Basically, once again, just taking you back there to that same area. Okay, so making life easy for being able to collaborate with also non-CAD designers. They don't need the software to be able to open it and view this information. So in summary, I'll just head all the way back down to the summary page. In summary, Fusion Team Hubs is a CAD-aware cloud storage platform that allows you to store data within projects, share, collaborate, view, and interact with data created in Fusion 360, Inventor, AutoCAD, or even non-CAD packages like Word, Excel, and Adobe. It allows you to access the data with your most popular web browsers from pretty much anywhere that has an internet connection. And it brings the communication gap between role players and collaborators, or it bridges the communication gap between your role players, your collaborators. It allows for easier transfer of information back and forth within a project and between collaborators. It also allows for viewing of those files quite easily within an interactive environment. So I'd like to thank you for attending the webinar, and I hope that you've learned a lot about Fusion Team Hubs and enjoyed the presentation. I'll be taking any questions that you may have, so please make use of the chat panel in TeamViewer to post your questions, and then I will answer them for you. I'll just give a few minutes for those questions to come through, if there are any. If not, we will then close off the webinar. Okay, I don't see any questions coming through. So I'd like to once again thank you for the attendance. This webinar was recorded and will be made available on YouTube. And so we'll put that up on our Micrographics South Africa YouTube channel. We are Micrographics South Africa. We have four offices, one Joburg, Cape Town, Port Elizabeth, Durban, with contact details as shown. So if you have any more questions, or if you would like to contact us with regards to Fusion Teams, please feel free to contact your nearest office. Once again, thank you so much for attending and have a good day.